It was so good, y'all. Why didn't you tell me? The Great Mouse Detective is a 1986 Disney movie that follows the story of Basil of Baker Street and is a Sherlock Holmes-inspired story that shows Basil trying to find and rescue the father of a scared little girl named Olivia Flaversham from the clutches of his arch-nemesis, the evil Professor Ratigan. It was released a year after the catastrophic failure of The Black Cauldron, which almost sank the Disney animation studio, and is credited with saving the company and kicking off the road that led to the Disney Renaissance a few years later. So, this is the best Sherlock Holmes movie I've ever seen. There was just so much to love about this movie that this video is really going to be just me listing off everything that I enjoyed. So strap in, cause I've got quite a lot to say here. We open on a really great scene where Olivia Flaversham and her father are at his shop. He's a toy maker, and he's showing her this toy he made for her, a little dancing mouse. It's super cute. Then, we see this ominous shadow of a bat outside the door, and all of a sudden, the door handle is shaking, and someone is banging on the door trying to get in. In a panic, Flaversham pushes Olivia into the cupboard to hide her and tells her not to come out. The bat crashes in through the window, we hear a huge struggle as things crash around the toy store, and Flaversham calls out for his daughter, and she finds herself locked in with something propped against the door. When she's able to push it open, she finds the store completely destroyed, her father missing, and calls out into the dark night for her papa, her words echoing into the emptiness with no reply. We then get this cheery little fanfare into the title credits. It's a wild opening, and I just was not expecting the movie to start out so dark. That bat crashing through the window, his face, it's terrifying. And it's just really a somber note to start a movie on, is this little girl getting abandoned and her father getting kidnapped. And after this, and Fox and the Hound, which started with Todd's mom getting murdered by the hunter, I think Disney had a thing for really dark openings, which makes it all the more baffling that they wouldn't kill Chief off in Fox and the Hound. But that's neither here nor there. The opening is fantastic, and it had me fully sold for the movie. Like, wow, here we go. We are then introduced to Dawson, who finds Olivia crying on the street alone, and he decides to help her. They're going to go find Basil to help find her kidnapped father. And then we're introduced to Basil, who is my favorite Sherlock Holmes interpretation I'm pretty sure I've ever seen. I like him more than Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock Holmes. I like him more than Benedict Cumberbatch's Sherlock Holmes. I'm losing Sherlock Holmes in my head right now, but Basil, so much fun. So charming, so quick-witted. And actually, after him and Robin Hood, maybe I'm realizing I think I just have a thing for British accents. But either way, Basil is fantastic. And the rapport he has with Dawson and Olivia in the scene is just adorable throughout. From the moment they decide they are going to go on an adventure, but Olivia is definitely not coming, cut to them on the adventure and Olivia very much there. It's just a joy to watch them throughout the entire movie. I'd also like to point out my favorite part of this scene is that this is where we get introduced to our villain, Ratigan, and we are introduced to him by this. I don't know why this makes me laugh so much, but I've never seen another hero or villain, Disney or otherwise, where the hero has a lovingly painted portrait of their arch nemesis just hanging in their living room. It's just there. Why is it there? I don't know. Who painted it? I'm gonna say Basil painted it. There's clearly some lore here I'm missing about why Ratigan would have such a painting and why Basil would own it. But my headcanon after seeing this movie is clearly Basil and Ratigan dated. It was a very bitter breakup. It's clearly an enemies to lovers, back to enemies storyline when Basil realized, oh, Ratigan's evil, we can't be together, and I couldn't turn him to the light. But I'm still in love with him, so I'm going to keep this portrait, and damn you, Ratigan, why'd you hurt me so bad? I will stop you one day. It's just so funny. Why does that painting exist? But I love that this is our introduction to Ratigan and the first time that we see him. It's a great picture. And speaking of Ratigan, Ratigan is the best part of this movie, period. I am so glad that I hadn't seen this movie before, so I got to experience this for the first time because it felt so fresh to see an honest-to-God Disney villain again. Ratigan is just having an absolute ball this entire movie, and he's chewing up every single scene that he's in. He's voiced by Vincent Price, who does an incredible job, and I had read that it was Vincent Price's dream to voice a Disney character one day, and I'm so happy he got to do it, because you can tell every single line, he is loving it. He is just chewing up every single Shakespearean line voicing Ratigan. It is a joy every time he's on screen. But here's the thing about Ratigan. He's not only a hilarious, elderly, gay former theater kid, he's also an absolute monster, and I love it. during his incredible villain song, which gives Gaston a run for its money in the race for best song about a villain. One of his drunken henchmen calls him a rat, which causes him to crack, the music to immediately stop, and we watch as Ratigan boots him from his lair, summons his pet cat, and watches as the cat murders his henchman. I kept waiting for some gag where the mouse screams and gets out or runs away, but nope, straight up gets murdered. It was the moment in the movie where I went from, this villain is so silly and campy and I love him, to, oh shit, this guy's dangerous. And I loved it even more. Remember when villains did villainous things? Don't you miss that? I miss that. And I was so happy to see it. It sounds dark, but it just works so well with how heightened and campy Ratigan is to see this level of just monstrosity that occurred. And he's just so blasé during it. Not only that, they immediately go back into the song and finish it off. Fantastic. Great work, a true Disney villain. And Ratigan gets even better, but let's put a pin in that for now. So there's two scenes I wanted to talk about really quick. The first is another scene set in a toy store, this time in a human-sized toy store, where I wanted to hit up that bat that we had talked about earlier, the bat that kidnaps Olivia Flaversham's dad. His name is Fidget, and I just want to say that I love his design. He's got a little peg leg, he's got a broken wing, he's creepy looking, but also cute. It's a really fine line that they walk, and he's voiced, his name is escaping me right now, but it's this really gravelly voice that immediately I clocked it. If you've watched Sleeping Beauty, there's this one henchman of Maleficent that's like, we looked at all the cradles. He's got a very gravelly voice, totally the same guy, and he works really well. And I think that's a really hard line to walk between too scary or too cutesy. Works fantastic as a henchman. And he has a moment later on in the movie that cat murdering the henchman, where I thought it was going to be like oh my god, get me out of here, and then he escapes, but we didn't get that. The henchman just got murdered. We do get that later in the movie. Ratigan orders Felicia the cat to eat Fidget. Fidget is in the mouth, and he's like, and he gets out. So we do still get that moment I was expecting, but we first got the murder, so don't let that take away from the fact that Felicia, she'll do Ratigan's bidding and she'll kill someone. But Fidget, fantastic design, voiced really well, and a great minor antagonist to our heroes. And I say that because in this toy store, he is gathering up a lot of stuff for Ratigan. He's getting uniforms, he's getting all these things for Ratigan's plot, which we haven't talked about yet, but he's gathering things from a list for Ratigan, and Basil, Dawson, and Olivia find him here and corner him. And I think this sequence just does a really good job of not only being an exciting action sequence where Fidget does eventually get Olivia and get away with her, but it's a sequence that really makes use of the fact that these are mice. We are following mice in a human world, and everything in this toy store is gargantuan to them. Everything is a threat. Everything is a danger. And it's both funny but threatening, which is a line that I think this movie is doing a really, really good job at walking. It starts off with this kidnapping, which is super dark, and we've seen murders, but we see Ratigan being this hammy Shakespearean actor. We're bouncing back and forth between comedy and really dark things, but we're not having any issues with the tone problem. This isn't a Hunchback of Notre Dame situation or anything like that, where we're jumping between comedy and depressing things, and it's kind of bothering it. It is fully balanced in this movie, and I love that in this toy store, we get a lot of hijinks of them chasing after Fidget to save Olivia, but a doll comes crashing down, and it's like a statue coming down on you. Or a little wind-up horsey gets charging at them with a javelin, and, well, that's dangerous because, again, yeah, it's a little plastic stick, but we are mice. Dawson gets pinned to a target board with, like, a matchstick. It's just a great use of the space and the fact that they are mice in a human world. They just really do a good job of amping up the threat while keeping it comical, and I just want to commend them for that. And also on the balancing the more funny side with the more serious adult side, there is then later a scene where Dawson and Basil are dressed up, again trying to find Ratigan and save Olivia, and they end up in this tavern, and we have a sequence where we have a bit of a burlesque dancer, very Jessica Rabbit, and actually reminds me of, if you've seen Blazing Saddles, it's very reminiscent of Madeline Kahn's number in that movie. And it's a little salacious. It's a little, who drew this mouse this way? And, you know, it's a great sequence, but it's just another example of this movie is really towing the line between, hey, is this just a little kids movie and we're just doing some slapstick humor, versus we're making a movie for everybody. And it is a great time. It's got great humor for both kids and adults. Whether or not you think it's maybe not for fully younger kids, it just strikes a really good balance. And I think those two scenes are really highlighting that the Disney filmmakers were willing to go there. And I really appreciate that. I think it's what makes this movie stand out more than, say, The Fox and the Hound did. The Fox and the Hound wouldn't even kill Chief. Not only have we seen a murder in this movie, we get a lot of threats, a lot of dark tones, kidnappings. It just all works and makes it a much stronger movie. And I wanted to point those two scenes out to really highlight that. Okay, we're going back to Ratigan and why he is one of the best Disney villains I've ever seen. So, you know that joke, that running joke about James Bond villains and old movie villains where you have the hero in your grasp and you're going to kill him, but first let me monologue and let me tell you how I'm going to kill you, and of course you're going to get out of it, but I have to have this scene explaining it. I think Ratigan has, no joke, the best version of that trope that I have ever seen. He walks Basil through in a mousetrap. Oh, I thought about all the ways I wanted to kill you, and I couldn't pick one, so I picked all of them. And lays out exactly what's going to happen. There's a gun, there's a bow and arrow at him, there's an axe ready to chop him, an anvil's gonna smush him. But the best part is, it isn't this Rube Goldbergian machine that he has set up. The best part is, he says, all while playing a jaunty tune. And this jaunty tune is on a record that Ratigan has specifically composed for Basil to hear in his final moments. And he plays it, and I'll play a little bit of it if YouTube will let me.
Goodbye, so soon, and isn't this a crime?
It is the most hilarious, petty... He recorded a diss track for Basil, specifically for his demise. These two dated, you can't convince me otherwise, and Ratigan really rises to the top here. Like, what other Disney villain can say they wrote a track specifically for their arch nemesis? Chef's kiss. And if that scene is the best version of the trope of explaining how I'm going to kill you monologue, then Basil escaping that scene is the best version of the Sherlock Holmes quickly talking through his plan and working through this problem and saving himself in the last minute. This is also the best version of that trope. It's great, and it ends with a wonderful moment where they all get to take a photo.
Thank you, Dawson. Smile, everyone.
And still, that is not the best part of Ratigan. We have an amazing song. We have campy Shakespearean chewing the scenery dialogue. We have him murder henchmen. We have him threaten henchmen with murder. We have him kidnap. We have extortion. Oh, by the way, that plot, he's trying to overthrow the queen with a robot queen that the toy maker he kidnapped made so that he can put himself in charge. So that's Ratigan's plot. We have a great plot that almost works. We have a wonderful scene where he details how he's going to kill Basil. A great rapport with Basil where he's just toying with him. It's just fantastic. None of that is the best thing about Ratigan. The best thing about Ratigan is at the end, when his plan is foiled, we get this incredible sequence where Ratigan and Basil and Olivia crash into Big Ben. And this scene is gorgeous. So it turns out it's one of the first scenes to use 3D CGI. Almost 10 years before Toy Story. Just a scene though, not a full movie. But the scene is gorgeous. They're caught up in all these gears turning. Olivia almost gets squished. It's a thrilling sequence where Basil has to save Olivia and they have to get out of here. But during this scene, Ratigan, having had his plots foiled and lost everything, fully goes feral rat mode. We had seen a little bit of this before when that henchman called him a rat and he kind of like cracks because he doesn't like being called a rat. We got a glimpse of it. But here, he becomes terrifying. His eyes bulge out, the red comes in, he like rips through his clothing, fully hulked out, and he chases down through these gears and almost kills Basil. It's an incredible sequence. He is fully terrifying, and I think it really just cements. It's that kind of sequence where Jafar does this, right? He's like evil and menacing, but it isn't until he really like turns into a snake or into the genie where he's like a full-on threat that's going to murder our heroes. Ursula, when she becomes a giant, it's this like, we've really ramped up for the third act. I think it's one of the best ones of a Disney villain because of how terrifying it is. Honestly, it's giving Frollo where he's holding the sword over and you see like hell in his eyes. I was shocked. When Ratigan dies, because of course he does die, I was just playing the movie again in my head from that moment on and just kind of in awe at how perfect of a villain Ratigan is. Easily, I think, we'll get to this, like, I'll eventually rank the Disney villains, but I think Ratigan might be a top 5 Disney villain for me. Everything about him worked, and I loved this movie, and Ratigan just elevated it even further. It was a fantastic performance from start to finish, and the fact that scene is the best scene that he has, with everything else being A+ work from him, is just a full cherry on top of a great villain arc for the Disney movie. Just fantastic job, Great Mouse Detective. I was really impressed. I was not expecting it. I'm so glad I came into this blind. I need Ratigan pins now. I need Ratigan merch because I think he's one of my favorite villains now. And with that, I mean, like I said, I really just wanted to list off the things I love because I don't have a lot of negative things to say about this movie. Is it perfect? No, you know, there's some parts where it lulls a little, I guess, but I did not care. It is a brisk hour and 18 minutes, I'm pretty sure. I think like 80 minutes. And those flew by. I had so much fun with this movie. I'm so excited to rewatch it again and again. And if I was shocked on Fox and the Hound that I was going to put at the bottom, I'm much more shocked now to say that right now I'm putting Great Mouse Detective at number 1 on my ranking. I think out of the 6 or 5 movies that I've seen so far, Great Mouse Detective is my favorite one. Now, I don't think it's going to stay at number 1 based on the movies that I have seen, but there are a lot more Disney movies that I haven't seen yet, so what if there's another Great Mouse Detective gem hidden out there? I don't know, but I'm glad I found this one. Great Mouse Detective, if you've never seen it like I hadn't, I fully recommend it. It's a quick watch, and you're going to love it. It is so charming. It is so funny. It is so dark. Even while being funny, it balances that tone perfectly. And it's my favorite movie that I've watched so far for this project. Alright, if you've liked hearing me talk about The Great Mouse Detective and you haven't checked out my other videos, we're on a project. We're watching every single Disney and Pixar movie and ranking them live. So make sure to subscribe and like so you can get this content more. And we've already pulled our next movie. So the movie for this week, the holiday week, is Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which I haven't seen in a very long time, and I know a lot of you all say it's super underrated. I know it's a lot of people's favorites, a cult classic. So I'm excited to watch it and see where it lands. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Great Mouse Detective. Did you know I was going to love it? Have you already seen it and loved it? Have you not seen it? You should. Let me know what you thought of it, and are you excited for Atlantis? Let me know your rankings in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm wearing green because that's what Basil wears on the DVD cover, and then I realized he doesn't wear that in the movie. And Olivia, I think is who this character is supposed to be in the cover, also doesn't wear pink in the entire movie. So no one in this cover or this poster is wearing anything that they wear in the movie. But I had this little green Dickensian outfit from when I did caroling, so I'm going to use it.